Welcome to Flory Models, I'm Flory. Yes, didn't get on quite as well as I thought I would. Nothing to do with the kit, just spent my time doing it a lot more. I really hope to have it sort of deckled, final weathering done by now, to be honest, but I have sort of slowed the pace a little bit, spent a little bit of time working with this one. Certainly tried to show you guys more in the footage, which you'll see. We were running there with a wide angled lens on one of the cameras to get right in there, plus we had the two full HD ones running as well. And I was trying to show you different ways of doing various things with it, and one of the big things I come along with is doing sort of weathering with the white to do this type of effect, to give it that sort of grind in. Obviously this needs a wash on it yet to knock this back a little bit, but really just trying to give this effect. And certainly, well, the overhead, you can probably see it quite well on the overhead. You can see this sort of mottly look. We've still got to do another 2 processes, to be honest, right over the top of this one to really bring it to life. One thing though, guys, if you are building this kit, stick a lot of weight in the nose, because I know we've chopped this one around and I've changed the center of gravity because the engine's not being it in that, but trust me, I have put in here probably around about 50 to 60 grams of weight, and it's still just not a tail sitter. And I know we've got to do a few things. Yeah, I've got to put the cockpit on with the nose and everything else, but don't forget I've still got an electronics bay to go in the back end of this as well, and the engine, because we're going to have this mounted on a pylon hanging off the aircraft, it's going to be well back to what it's used to. So it's just my little concern, but luckily because the engines are open, I managed to stuff a load of lead up into there and actually make it look like, as you can probably see under here, this at the front here, these sections are all 3 layers of lead, both sides running down in here. But as you can see, you know, it quite hidely, I've got a little bit of whiting in there that's happened because of the actual super glue we used, but that is actually lead plate all in those. So it's really looking the part, it's coming together now, really happy with it. And to be honest, really enjoying it. It's one of those builds where I don't mind it takes longer. I'm not in that mindset of like, oh God, I wish I'd get over it. I'm enjoying it so much. I'm really having fun with it. So the next part of that is up there now, which is what? Is 12 and 13 isn't that far behind. 13 will probably be up on Monday, which will get you to basically this stage. As we work our way through, probably add a little bit more of the mottling work to it and show you exactly how to do that one. At the same time, obviously, I was using all of this to carry on from last week. We were playing with obviously the Evolution AL, and I have used it solely for doing this particular one. It hasn't changed my mind on the review. If you saw the review last week, you'll know we did an in-depth with it and I used it and sprayed it, and certainly if you watch the 2 parts of this one, you'll see me using nothing apart from this airbrush to do all this work. It is a lovely piece of kit. It's just the weight doesn't bother me. If I'm honest, now I've used it, it feels as heavy as perhaps when I was using the Evo and things like that, which weigh the same as any other airbrush. This one is a lot lighter, but I didn't suddenly think, oh, I'm having so much more fun because it's lighter, so I'm going to pay an extra 50 quid because it's lighter. It didn't really bother me that much. So I know I've had lots of emails and lots of messages through the site and everything else, and people asking me, you know, about it. Is it worth it? It is this thing. You know, this is my all-time favourite airbrush out of any manufacturer out there, which is obviously the Infinity. You've got these gizmos at the back, I can get to the rear trigger, I can do all these different things, and we can lock on and lock off, and it perhaps a little bit gimmicky, and I don't use them, and I tend to probably use this airbrush, but they're always there if I need it. So I'm thinking for an extra 10 quid, I know which way I would go. So I would go for an Infinity over it. A couple other things came up, which I do, as I say, I'm a bit out of touch with what they're up to these days. The CR version of the Evolution, which is this one, which is basically the same thing, does come with a 2-prong cap on it as standard. So, you know, where I was talking about that you would need to get one, if you go with the CR version of this, it's only a little bit more expensive, but it's certainly not buying a 60 quid needle set. It does come with it, so you could go out and do it that way. But as I say, it's a lovely airbrush, it's very nice to use. Perhaps the trigger seems a little bit more lighter, I'm not quite sure why, but it may be because it's brand new, and obviously my other one is now best part of 15 years old, and my other airbrush is coming up for 10 years old, the Infinity, so it may be that's why the trigger is a little bit more snappy and seems a little bit more lighter to use. But it's a great airbrush, don't get me wrong, it does exactly what you would need of it. I went down to doing tiny little work right the way up to doing flooding the top, because when I did this top section, as you'll see, max everything, and it's very thin paint, and we just whack down layers of paint with it, no problem at all. But as I say, this is just a little catch up really. It's just as good, it's just as brilliant. It's the same money as the Infinity. If somebody said to me, what do you want to do? I don't think I'd pay the extra money just because it's lighter and it's black. I would go for the Infinity and do it that way if you're spending that level of money, for certain. But don't get me wrong, I still have other airbrushes, so I still have my Iowata there and all the other ones I've got, and they're just equally as good. It's just personal preference with me, so don't flame me and shoot me down for it. It's just that I do like using them. Anyway, so a couple of weeks ago, and I say a couple of weeks ago, I think it was months ago now, I was working on the Hawk, as you saw, doing all the gloss black work. If you haven't seen the tutorials on it, they're on the site, and we talk about doing gloss paint and making it deep, lusty, shiny and glossing and all things like that. Well, the full idea of it was going to be on a stand to be in flight, hence its gear up. So I went off and we got an acrylic rod and all things like that, and I kept on saying, and I'll show you how I bend the rod, okay? And it's one of those things, I just never really got round it. This is how it all goes, something like that. I never got round it. Anyway, I got prompted by Rob this week, and I just remembered that I had a lot of it already done, so got it all edited, and this is me in a kitchen, so it's kitchen time with Flory models, bending, melting, and applying acrylic. So working with acrylic, as you can see, we've moved into the kitchen, so I do know how a cooker works. Anyway, we've actually got down here acrylic rod about bending it. Now, it's not as difficult as it may seem, okay? It's one of those things, it's very easy to overdo it, okay? So when you're dealing with the temperatures, I tend to stick around about 100 degrees, but it's all to do with timing. It's not so much the temperature, it's to do with the timing. But what can happen is if you've got it too high, the rod obviously is very soft on the outside, but still quite firm on the inside. So that's why I tend to stick around about 100 degrees. Now, the oven is still coming up to temperature as we're talking here. So, and I've got it on fan assisted, it doesn't matter as long as the rod is in there. Now, a few things to remember, different thicknesses of rod. This particular one, we've got two sizes here. I've got the bigger one, which I think is like a 13mm, which is what goes in here, okay? Fits it perfectly, it's a nice snug fit, and we've already bent it once, okay, into a nice sort of corkscrew effect as we're having it coming up here. But if we wanted to, we could change that. So what we're going to do is pop it back in the oven to do it. We've also got a thinner one. This is like a 10mm one. As I say, it's a little bit sort of small for this. It rattles around in there, but you could wad it out to make it to a particular thickness you wanted to. It just depends on how you want it to be. Do you want it to be a thin rod coming off the back, perhaps you can't see it, you're going to have a nice bend quite early in it, or you want something to look more like a heat effect as it goes down through the back. So anyway, the way I do it, which I know there's various ways, is to use an oven. The thing is with an oven, you can pop it in there and do it. You can use things like a hot air gun and then put it on there like this. It tends to be more localized, the heat. So if you want to do a nice big spiral like this, you'd have to heat up the entire thing. So I think that's where an oven comes in better. Now, a couple of things you're going to need. Obviously your acrylic rod. You're also going to need a tea towel, something else like that to pop in the oven. Now it's not in very long, okay, it's just come up to temperature. So what we can do is give it a whirl. Now, the way I do it is that I pop it onto like a roasting tin, something else like this. Great thing about this, you can look in through the window and see it physically dip down and drag in there. But to stop it sticking to your said partner's roasting tin, I pop the towel down on top, okay? Then we pop the rod in, so it just sits on here like this. All right. So you just sit it in the rod and it just sits on there like this. Then when it starts to bend down in a moment, you can see it, and then you can obviously pull it out and go through. Now it's not going to take very long in here. Okay, so we're just going to pop it in like that. Now I can see the rod where it is, and obviously it's not only going to take a few minutes to get on. So obviously I haven't done this side of rod before, so I'm guessing it's probably going to be around about 3 or 4 minutes. Have a look at it. It may take about 5 or 6. So say we're 100 degrees. I don't want to go more than that because I don't want it bubbling or anything else like that. This particular one we did, which we'll try again in a moment, was in there for around about 5 minutes. I noticed it sag. You get it out and give it a twist. So with the power of time lapse, right, okay, now what it's doing now is just starting to sag just a little bit, so it's starting to bend down. The big thing is you want to catch it before it starts to melt, because obviously you don't want a blob of, you know, clear plastic in the bottom of your roasting tin. Okay, the towel, all that does is basically give it something to sit onto. Okay, the heat transfer through the metal will be a lot stronger by having the towel down there. It just keeps it a little bit cooler than it does before. Probably it's just taking a bit longer than it did to do the bigger one, but to be honest, the bigger one I had up at 150. I only just about caught it before it turned into a blob because it was extremely hot to touch. This should be warm to the touch, very warm to the touch, but it's not like melting in your hands or anything else like that. So I reckon just a few more moments and we can do it. What you want to do is plan the shape. It's a bit like glass. This will start to cool and set pretty much straight away. So what you want to do is work out what type of shape you're going to have it in. Now, if you're going to have it on a stand, okay, and you just want like a right angle, you're going to need to bend it over something. So a worktop, your countertops, something else like that. So what we've got down here, let's move the hawk out of the way. I can use the curve of the worktop here. Obviously you could make a jig exactly what shape you wanted and everything else like that. If you're doing something with multiple engines, perhaps with 2 engines, you need the bars to be the same. You could either do them both together, then bend them down, or do them one at a time and use a jig to put it over, bend it down, as we'll do with this one. If you're going to do something like a curve, obviously you hold it in a towel, both towels, both ends, and you can physically twist it if you want it like a spiral or something else like that. So if we have a look in here now, what we can do, I don't know how well you can actually see this in here, if I just zoom it in, okay. You can see it's actually sagging. That's exactly what we want it to be. So if I look that back, but as you can see, the sag tells you you're ready to use it. Let's flip that round. All right. So what we're going to do, take it out of the oven, place it at the top, and for this one, what we're going to do is put it in. So you can put it down here, okay, and we can just bend it, okay. And it is quite warm to the touch, so you might need a cloth just to hold it, okay. And you just bend it. And to be honest, this one's getting there. It's pretty warm, but as you can see, hopefully you can see, you have your right angle, then you could cut it to the right size you wanted it, or anything else like that. So if we pop it back in again, now it's gone a little bit off. Okay, let's pop it back in there. We'll give it a few more moments just to warm up again, then you can bend it again. And by doing it this way in stages, you can bend them quite a bit. Remember, don't let it onto neat metal, it will want to stick, it will melt everything in. Using the towel basically just keeps it a little bit more nicer. If you're doing quite a thin plastic, you can do it with a hot air gun and just into one area. But from our point of view, what we're going to do with this one now is put another bend and a twist into it and everything all in one. So we'll give it a couple more minutes to go nice and soft, and then we're going to pull it around. Okay, so we're going to put a clear sheet in there as well. Same thing, I'm going to leave it up on one edge so I can see if it's bending. To be honest, I'm going to crank the heat up just a little bit to around about 150 degrees Celsius, because I think that's taking a little bit longer. Say, normally I did it 150, so now I'm going to crank it up and we'll give it another couple of minutes and we'll try again. Okay, so we're up to temperature now, and got some gloves this time because it's getting a little bit hot. So what we're going to do, we'll have a pull out, and to be honest, we've gone slightly wrong. Okay, so as you can see now, really, really bendable. So you could bend this into any shape you like. So if we just do something like this in a curve, and if you wanted to, we'll put it on another curve and twist it back on itself. You can put it into any shape you like, okay? So for this one, perhaps we're going to go here, and then say a couple of minutes later, start to go firm, starting to go hard, okay? And all you do is leave it in exactly the position you want and do it. But obviously if you warm it up, then you can carry on a little bit more and you can have it in a situation to have it bent exactly. And that's going off now, it's getting pretty stiff. Down in here, we have this stuff. Now this is clear sheet, and to be honest, it's rolled up. That's more my fault, but you can see exactly the same, very malleable as we are now. But what we'll do, we'll just roll this up into a bit of a shape. And obviously you let it go cold, and then as it's going cold, you can then put it into anything you like. But gloves is a bit of a must here because it gets very, very hot. But as this stuff dries, it's going rock hard Okay, and to be honest, we've got a little bit of colour from it, that's come off the tea towel. All right, but there we go, going hard, but you can bend these into any temperature you like. So, in test results, I would say 150 is a better way to do it. But remember, have a towel. I've tried it before, and you go onto, even if you've got like a Teflon plate like this, the heat transfer is very, very strong at the ends it touches, so consequently it does it. But there we go, this one is now, and that one. Both of these are completely gone off, very, very hard, and that is how you do it. Remember, if you don't like it, don't panic, chuck it back in, give it another 5 minutes at 150, and you're good to go. But I was in there a little bit worried about doing thinner plastics that are a little bit easier. So what I'm going to do, because I'm not entirely happy with the shape of that one, okay, this spiral one, I think I'm going to go with more of a sort of an edge on it. So I'm going to just pop him back in the tray, pop him in, 150, 3 minutes, 4 minutes tops, get him out, and I'm going to bend him into a proper shape. Okay, so we are now 5 minutes, all right, been in there. I should think it must be done by now because that's what it did last time. So the same thing again, roughly working out, we're going to use something on the hawk here to sort of bend it to be a nice type of shape. I'm thinking going to have it probably, I don't know, coming off at an angle, so we're just going to have a slight bend with a twist. Okay, so out of the oven, and as you can see, it's straightened up pretty much. Okay, so I'm going to think it's about there, and we're going to put a small little, just a kink into it. Okay, and I'm trying to keep all the areas nice and smooth, but you saw how twisted it was before. We're now more on a straight line. Okay, I'm going to do something like that, because this end is going to go into my base unit. We'll drill a hole. This is the area where it comes off, and I just want a little bit of a wave in there, and already it's starting to go off. So whilst it's drying, you can pull it around, but say make sure you use gloves, because I can feel the heat even through these, and these are leather and Nomex. Okay, there we go, that's looking pretty good. So that will go in our stand. Don't try this at home, but poke it in the end, and there we go. We'll have something looking like that. Okay, so you know, obviously there's a little discrepancy, shall we say, in the beginning of that, because I was doing it live and it was all done in one shoot, and I never pressed stop on the camera once, and I just did it in one. Okay, so that is the thing. I still maintain the lower temperature and it being in there longer works better, because what you don't want to do is something that I did just to see if it would do it. You might be able to see on the end here, got a little flat spot. That is because I put it onto the tray neat like that. Immediately it starts to melt in. So if you were laying it down there, you're going to end up, and what will happen is, where this is all totally crystal clear, if you start to put it on things, and I tested it again up here, see these two little dips up here? This is where it's laying on the top of the tray without the towel down. So the towel does help, because it just makes it a little bit of cooling space between the two, so it's not like being on a red hot bit of metal or something else like that. So it just keeps it a little bit cooler. But what you want to do is get it so structurally it holds its shape. You don't want it so it's so soft it's just going bleh. Okay, you need it to be there. So I still maintain that perhaps no higher certainly than 150, but say go up to about 125 degrees Celsius, 5 minutes for this sizes anyway. So what we've got here is, it says, grabbing his calipers quickly, because again, whilst I was in the kitchen I didn't know what size we had. So this one here is a 15mm, and then this little guy down here is a 10mm. Okay, so obviously when it's a thinner one, you're not going to need as much time in there and all the rest of it. Just when you're straightening it out and you've bent it, just keep hold of it, because it does tend to want to go back. But as I said, with this one, when we did it, it was that big curl. We managed to bung it back in the oven and straighten it up. So if you did want it to go back to being straight, you could physically straighten it out. It's just that if you're using bigger bits of acrylic, like, to be honest, we've got 25mm that we did on the Tomcat, that would take a lot more to do that. But I do find just in the oven, it's nicer for making nice sweeping curves and, you know, S shapes and things like that, as we did. But this particular one, I'm going to get that one mounted. It will go into a block like this, and I just wanted to have a curve in it, because what we're going to do, and I'll show you in another show, we're going to spray this like we did with the Tomcat. So we're going to have a little bit of heat blur at the top and then some whiteness coming off of this, so it looks like it's, you know, broken air pattern through it and giving it that sort of wavy look to it. So there we go, that was working with acrylic, brings us up to date, and sorry it took so long. So next up we've got a review for you. This is the TA152. It's a new release by Hobby Boss. Yes, it is basically a derivative of a 190, but anyway, it's a cracking kit, so let's have a look. Hello, welcome to Flory Models kit review time. Okay, so what we've got here is Hobby Boss's latest 1/48 scale. This is the TA152C11. It's basically a version of the Focke-Wulf 190. Okay, lots of different things with this one. It's got obviously a lot longer wingspan, it's thinner, it's generally a little bit more sleeker, but as you can see, pretty new kit, as I say, it's just come out. Quite a small box, okay, it's only 15 quid, so it's not going to break the bank, this one. And just generally looking around it, we've got a little bit of the artwork on the box, a little bit of the development from the 190 to the TA152C as it goes through. A few little bits there on the box, but generally pretty not much going on in there. So I haven't even opened this box to have a look. So we have the usual what's coming out soon, okay. So we've got some things there on the way. So we've got the Doria, obviously the one we're doing here, New York, some of their nice trains that they do as well, which is one thing we must look at. So down in here, not too bad at all, quite a stuffed box, lots of things going on. So we'll just have a look at the instructions. Okay, so we have a colour call out sheet, which we'll look at in a second. So starting on the instructions, your general blurb on the front. We've got your parts tree call out, as you can see just down here. Going through the cockpit, so we've got some decals going on for the actual instrument panel. We've got photo etch harnesses, which is a nice touch like that. Quite looking a detailed cockpit the way it goes together. We've got a bit of engine as well, just the back end of the engine. Again, nice little touch going through. Pretty straightforward, two halves going together, engine and floor. So it's not going to be a massive build on these ones. They're quite nice, they come together very, very quickly. But as I said, cowling's going on. It's one of those areas you've just spent a little bit of time doing that engine work and then you're not going to see it. So you've got the cowl flaps can be open or closed, which is a nice touch. I've got the supercharger scoop going in there. Different options for the back part of the cockpit down there on the rear rail. The actual main prop going on, the cockpit. We've got little guns as well, so we've got actually some detail, which is quite nice because you see those through the floor, okay, going through. Unfortunately, you don't have gun bays open on the top, but it could be something perhaps you could cut open to reveal these. Nice little details. We've got some framing work going down there with the engine, working our way through. Positionable flaps, nice little touch, and it'll obviously be positionable ailerons as well going on there, and then goes on the bottom. And there we go, we've got the gear, which obviously on these is always a little bit of a nightmare getting the geometry quite right with those. Okay, and then obviously the aerials and in there, and that's it. It's not much to it, which is quite nice, makes a nice quick build. So you've got your colour call out sheet here. It doesn't have a particular marking on here, so it's going to be sort of yellow 11, that nice sort of mottly colour with the deep colours on the top and then very light on the bottom. So you've got colour call outs, usual thing, Mr. Hobby, Valero, Model Master, Tamiya, and as you go through, and that's it. So what do we get actually in the box? So if we start with the fuselage, grab my knife here. Okay, so what we actually have here, your usual styrene. It's actually a lot sharper and harder than I'm used to Hobby Boss's stuff, if we're honest. Okay, if we just drop this top cam down a little bit further, we can get some detail in here, and perhaps this side one in. Okay, so as you can see, we've got some nice details on the side, so it's all recessed panel lining, some very fine riveting and little latches all over this one. We've got little tiny, which is a nice little touch, very nicely moulded in. This is across the top here, which camera worked best, but you can actually see we've got some of the actual hinging system put on there. It's very close to the other side, and as you see both sides of it, quite a nice touch, got a little bit of texture, which is a little bit odd. It's this band where they've extended the actual fuselage itself and moved it back. You can actually see here it's in a different texture, which is quite odd. Okay, down on the inside we've got some ejector pin marks, but nothing you'd really worry about. They're all out of the way. Some nice secure locating tabs and everything on. So very nice detail on that one. Next up, we've got, let's have a look at these. These are the front over the top of the engine. So we've got the gun bays and the tops of the cowls as well. So we get two versions, number 6 and 7. Didn't see that in the instructions. I'm just looking for a difference. As you say, it's quite hard to see, but this one's a little bit flatter on this side than the other one, and how well you can see on the top here. But this one here is a little bit more squashed down. This one's a little bit higher at the front, so we've got two different types in there. The wing sections themselves, so the biggest sprue we've got here. So again, looking at the detail on the wings, you can see we've got a nice mixture of recessed and raised. So we've got some of these hinging for the gun areas and the undercarriage, things like that from the top. Some little lumps and bumps all over it, which are very nicely done. Lovely little detail with these recessed latches and things like that on these. These are absolutely lovely. Beautifully done. Again, it's got a sort of texture to it. It's a little bit rough, which is great if you're doing something flat and dead, but if you're doing anything glossy, then obviously you need to be polishing that one out. So moving down on here, we've got the actual ailerons. You can see we've got texture on these flaps, which is another beautiful little touch on these. You know, they really do, you catch it in the light, come out really nice. And again, on the tail planes, you can probably see very nicely done. You know, details in there, both sides. A couple of little ejector pin marks down here on this fret as you run down, but generally not too bad at all. The undercarriage legs, as I say, they're always very fiddly on these and very fine. Quite nicely done. They're nicely in register with each other, so you haven't got a giant seam line running down between the two, and generally working over. Nice touch, we haven't got any ejector pin marks, which is very nice down here in the wheel wells. Okay, so no problems with that. So you haven't got any ejector pin marks anywhere where you'd see. It seems to be the latest thing now, that the companies, instead of just sort of building a kit and the ejector pin marks are just one of those things that gets in the way, they do tend to be thinking about it now. So it's very rare that I've reviewed a kit, a modern kit, in the last few months now that has had a nasty ejector pin right where you don't want it. So, some more of the intricate detail. Very nice cockpit. You can probably see that down in there. It is absolutely exquisite. It's very nice. Some nice detail on the floors. The actual panels on the side are nicely done. Very fine details, which are absolutely lovely. So on the business end, got the back end of this engine, so you're only going to get the rear part of it. We've got the seat, which has actually got moulded in cushions into it, which is very nice. We've got the supercharger down here. We've got the cowl flaps showing in the sort of open or closed position on these, which again is a very nice touch from the inside. And as I say, some of these parts, we can see some mouldings down in here for the back end of the engine, things like that. The exhaust stacks, it's not brilliant because you've got two halves going together, which is a little bit odd, but again, they seem to be very nice. They are closed, so you are going to have to open them up if you want to. Again, little details like the actual foot pedals. Now this is stuff that we'd seen on perhaps Edard kits and things like that a few years ago, now filtering down to this, which is, say, it's a £15 kit. Absolute bargain. Intricate panels we've seen before. It's slide decals onto these, so they're just solid, nothing to get excited about over there, but things like the control grip, everything is actually really nice. It's got a lovely level of detail, really is nice. And even when you can probably see back here, hopefully you can see it on here, which camera might work best, maybe on the side, but you can actually see very, and I mean very fine detail, there we go, on this rear panel back here behind the seat. Even the tyres, the actual work on the spoking and everything else as you look down into it is absolutely exquisite. Very nice, very delicate. Okay, so you have a look at this bottom wing spar. Again, the level of detail is really coming along now. The sharpness of panel lines. Before you got to a certain level, and that was really it. You couldn't get any finer. If they were too fine, they just wouldn't look right, okay, because they would fade in and out. Now, these are obviously where it's all CAD design and it's all fully computerized, start to finish. They can lay down exact panel lines and riveting detail and just get it right time and time after again with no problems at all, even in this fineness. And as you can see, you catch it in the light, they are all exactly where you want them to be. They're all perfectly in register. There's no soft mouldings, it doesn't go along and then lose it or anything else like that. Right the way through. And even the thickness of the plastic itself seems to be a little bit thinner. It's not big and chunky. You know, even working on the Intruder there, some of the plastic, let's just say, is a little bit heavy. It doesn't need to be that thick and heavy, but certainly something like this is very fine, very, very delicate. You probably see there the width of the wings. Absolutely lovely. Very nice all the way through. Okay, prop. And the guns. Probably not. So, the actual, we've got here, again, showing very nice. We've got the fabric detail. Catch it in the light there. You can see the ribs of it coming in and out. There we go. You can see there. So it's very nice. The actual spinner itself, beautifully done with the actual, a very nice crisp line all the way around there. Even the little tail wheel is beautifully done. It is absolutely exquisite the way it is. The prop itself, we've got no blurred edges, got a little bit of flash on the tips, but nothing that would actually be a problem. It's just, it's quite heavily gated onto this, so just take care when you're cutting it off that you don't sort of pull the geometry. But you can see we've got some of the more finer details. So you've got some of these little, the tail wheel, very nicely done. The aerials, the steps there, things like that. And of course we've got the guns, which, okay, they're nothing exciting, but they're very nicely detailed for something you're never going to see. And down in there, so that's actually very nice. Now we've got the bottom of the, or the top of, I should say, the wheel well. So you can see some of this detail down in here. Catch it in the light again. Very, very nice, beautifully done. No ejector pin marks on either side of these doors, which is a nice touch, because normally you'd have a black and grey one in the middle. Very slightly softly moulded in the actual locating pin marks, but the details just down here on the back of this is absolutely exquisite. Beautifully done, very nicely done all over there. Right, some of the more interesting parts. So we've got the clear canopy, very nicely protected. Note to self, by a sharper knife. Okay, so down in here, beautifully protected, we have the rear canopy. So we just do our usual sort of test. You can see yourself, there's a little bit of warpage in there, but because of its scale, it's very hard to stop it. Certainly the front one, we pop it over this line, you can see, yeah, a little bit in there, but as I say, because of the scale, but there is beautifully crystal clear, okay? It's not too thick. Again, there's no ejector pin marks or anything else. It's single part. There's no center seam line to worry about or anything else like that. Very nicely done. We'll just pop this in here to protect it. Keep him safe. We have here a very nice piece of photo etch. So actually what you've got, I don't blind you with the camera, there we go, catch it in the right light. You can actually see, this is that real one where you can obviously have as a metal piece. But you can see the detail. That detail is just the same on the plastic, which is quite nice. Some harnesses, as you can see down there, which is very nice. A little bit of photo etch. Steps, rudder pedals even. So you can replace those as well. Got a couple of blades and more antenna. But again, it's a nice little touch. Okay, it's not as thin as some manufacturers, but it's certainly not as thick as I've seen it in the past. So that's quite a nice touch. And we have the decals. So we just pop these out. Bit nasty, as you can see the way this has been put on here. So I don't know if it's moved in the bag, but obviously it's right on the top of a decal, which is going to be very gently pulling it apart. Now you can see, but that is right over that decal. But it looks like we've got away with it. So what I'm going to do is just get rid of it totally. This is where it goes. Wouldn't be the first time. Okay, so usual thing, the SWAT sticker is put into bits. We've all been through this before. Seems to be nicely in register. They don't look too bad. It's got little marks on it, but it could be just where the paper hasn't been sitting flush and it's been rucked up. And that, to be honest, that sticky tape is extremely tacky. It's gluey. It's everywhere. So you just be a little bit careful. Everything looks in register though. Even the little walkways, they also look quite nice as you work your way through. These colour bars at the back, probably easier to sort of mask and spray yourself. And then these little guys just down here, which is going to be, let's grab that new blade. So what we can do is, and this is your instrument panel. Okay, perhaps a little bit of a weak area on this one, but in its scale, it's quite acceptable. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Got this nice colour geometry for the controls and everything at the top. I don't know, just doesn't look brilliant, okay, especially when you've got these that are just black. I know it's obviously just going to be black down there on the inside, but perhaps a little bit of a weak area of the kit. So there we go, £15. I think it's a bargain. You know, it is absolutely nice. Okay, it's not your standard FW190, your Butcher Bird, but it is a derivative of it. Something a little bit different, a little bit quirky, and everything else with it. Certainly the technicalities of the kit look absolutely stunning. Everything you could ever ask for. So you've got no ejector pin marks in any bad areas. There's no sign of flash and all the usual bits like that. It's a lovely, clean, fast build kit. So there we go, 15 quid. It is the PA 152C11 kit. Absolutely lovely, go and get one. So there we go, lovely little kit, 15 quid as well, bargain, absolutely gorgeous detail. You've got the photo etch, some decent decals in it. It's an absolutely lovely kit, and it's probably one of those nice weekend builds where you could do in a weekend and get it painted the next weekend as well. So absolutely lovely. Right, next up, great success last week with Ben showing us his work area and everything else. We've got a couple queued up for you for some of you members who have sent me some stuff. So next up we've got, this is Dan McGeever with his work space, well, work rooms shall we say, because he's lucky enough to have the house to himself.
Hiya, my name is Dan McGeever. I'm from Trowbridge in Wiltshire, which is in the southwest of the United Kingdom. I've been part of Flory models since November 2012, so just over a year. I've actually been modelling for around 3 years, so I'm still sort of relatively new to everything. This is my video of my man cave, although technically it's my living room. The beauty is that I live on my own, so any space I have is literally my own. I do feel sorry for those people who don't have that privilege, but I suppose I'm quite lucky in that sense. So here is my work area. Right, immediately above my work area I have some aviation prints. That one is of the B-17 Little Miss Mischief, which has a brilliant story behind it. And this is the, oh, excuse the glare, this is the Mosquito tsetse fly, which also is another well-known aircraft. This is my work area. A rather nice large bench, as you can probably see. My computer is on the bench as well, so that I can look at the videos that Mr. Flory does whilst I'm building my own. Currently, as you can probably see, I'm doing the 124 scale Tamiya Mini Cooper. Under these trays, these are actually PCB trays, which I find are absolutely brilliant for holding components of the modelling kind in here. Currently, the Mini Cooper steering wheel, radiator, there's one wheel there, and I believe under here will be the chassis, yep, with the engine as far. Used the brilliant dark iron buffable metallizers for the chassis, which I think, hopefully you'll agree, actually make it look more realistic than just semi-gloss black. At the back here I have a range of Tamiya paints in no particular order, although they were at one point. Also have my Pritt Stick and Microset and Sol, Crystal Clear. I have my own little link mixture here, which is Winsor & Newton Black with about 95% airbrush cleaner. My glue of choice is Cement S with some Zappa Cap, which I use for other jobs. Cellulose thinners, which is the CT bottle, and a bottle of airbrush cleaner, which I use for cleaning brushes. Over here on the left is my toolbox. Yeah, pretty scruffy. That's just sort of all bits and pieces which I don't want to throw away, because you never know when you might need them. Selection of sanding sticks and sponges, which I've recently acquired from Mr. Flory, and very nice they are too. Various cutting instruments, scissors, knives, scribers. I've also got pin vices and drill bits in there as well. Various clamps, tweezers, pegs, yeah, all sorts in there, which are very useful. Selection of brushes, some old, some new, some borrowed and some blue, it would seem, as well. And next down I have all bits and pieces, various rules. I have a modeller's rule, which is very handy because it actually gives you actual sizes compared to the model form, which is quite handy to know. Was that instructions on easy line there? Yeah, which I'm yet to try. Trumpeter razor saw, various bits of Tamiya tape, wouldn't be without it. And just underneath that drawer is my washes, additional sanding sticks, additional sprue. That's a small box of extra parts from other kits, 172 pilots and all sorts in there. Yeah, perfect plastic putty, wouldn't be without that. That's absolutely brilliant stuff, on Philip Flory's recommendation. Also have cocktail sticks and cotton buds, airbrush cleaner, Pledge Clear, which I believe this is one of the latest versions of the same stuff. Vallejo matte and gloss varnish, which I quite like to use. The obviously wouldn't be without X20A Tamiya thinner. This is my spray bay, although not technically a bay because I have no form of extraction, so it's always on with a mask whenever I'm doing that. The airbrush I use is the Neo for Iwata. I've been using that for around 12 months now, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. I will upgrade in the future, but obviously money is an issue. I've got my little compressor down there, which I think was about £65 a year ago, sorry. Yeah, which I think is a brilliant little thing for people just getting into it. Various solvents and liquids, got some levelling thinner there, and white spirit and cellulose thinners and all that sort of stuff. Directly below that, underneath, is my Dremel tool, which is a battery operated one with various accessories which I like to use. These are my practice pieces. This was the Revel 1 to 144 scale Concord. Probably didn't need to tell you that, you can probably tell that straight away. Which I use for practicing. The paint job went wrong on this one, so I didn't want to throw it out, so I kept it for that. Also, I have the Airfix Mark 1 Spitfire. I didn't get any decals with the kit, and I'm a bit lazy, so I instead of just asking Airfix for a new set, I just built it and used it as a practice piece. And also, this is the Airfix, very old Airfix BF 110, which is used for the same thing as the other two. Immediately to the left of my spray booth, bay, sorry, is my display cabinet. Apologies for the reflection. On the top shelf is some various die-cast models which I've acquired. It's Enola Gay, Memphis Belle, Admiral Prune, which was Gibson's Lancaster, I think before we joined 617, and that's just a standard Mosquito. Here I have my 148 Texan, which I entered into the Korean War group build last year. I'm quite pleased with that one. That's the Artillery 172nd C-47 Skytrain. This was the first aircraft that I actually practiced some weathering techniques on, which didn't go particularly well, in all honesty. This little fella down here is the Airfix Chipmunk. This was the very first model that I used an airbrush on, and I was quite pleasantly surprised with the results, because it was my first attempt. There's nothing like pre-shading or tonal differences on there. That's just standard colour. And that's one of my latest finishes, which is the 1/72 Nat. I'm hoping to have the Vampire pair it sooner rather than later, which is currently over on the shelf. To the left here is my stash, which I'm gently acquiring more and more as time goes on. It's normally in the bedroom, but I brought it in here because the bedroom is a bit of a tip. Apologies parents if you're listening or watching this. Some builds that I'm quite looking forward to particularly are the Edward Mark 9 early version. I think that's going to be a good one to build. Quite looking forward to the 1/32 Typhoon. This is the twin seat version, which I think is going to be quite nice to build as well. And I'm very much looking forward to the C17 Globemaster, which I've had in the stash for a while now, so it's about time it'll have to come out. Over here I'll have some more pictures on the walls of Mark 9 Spitfire and the prototype Spitfire, which flew back in 1936. Very nice picture. I have some fabric from the prototype Mosquito, which I acquired from the De Havilland Museum in London Colney. If you haven't been, definitely recommend that. And some fabric from the Wellington that they're currently restoring at RAF Cosford in Shropshire. On this shelf I have, I suppose you could call it work in progress, or shelf of doom, one of the two. This is the Airfix Helldiver, extremely old kit. Caused me no end of problems really, but I will finish it, just don't know when. As mentioned, the Vampire, which I'm hoping to finish soon, and then I can partner it with the Nat. And these two fellas here are the very first kits that I built coming into the hobby about 3 years ago. No techniques really used on it, just hand brushed, hand painted, no filler, no sanding, just straight out the box and put together, which I kind of missed from my childhood really, but you know, it's nice to have them there, but in time I'm sure they will be replaced. So yeah, that essentially is my build, is my area. So yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed watching it, and I look forward to seeing some more excellent work on Flory models, and hopefully I can join with some of my own sooner rather than later. Take care.
Okay, so thank you Dan for showing us around and everything else like that. As I say, we've got more next week and everything else. So don't forget members, if you want to get yours up on here, you don't have to do it out to the world if you don't want to, just tell me, but certainly you can have them in the forum. Got that dedicated area now in the forum for your videos and everything else like that. So pop in there, drop them in there, and we can all see, because it's absolutely really interesting to see how people do it and everything else, and these just little setups and everything else. But remember, show us your models as well, because we'd love to see those. Okay, we've got to mention, next week we have, well not next week, got 2 weeks, we've got the members meet here at Flory Models HQ here in the studio. So guys, all the local guys, if you want to come and spend the evening with me, it's going to be on the 2nd of February, and it's going to be on the 2nd of March as well. So we're going to get back to the monthly ones. We might even stick the cameras up again if you guys want to watch us yap and talk rubbish as we usually do, and everything else like that. So, and when we get the internet properly working here, which they're still working on, we might even live stream it and things like that, because that'd be quite interesting. The other thing I've got to mention, I spoke about this last year and it never happened through to little things we had going on, but we'd like to do the members visits again. Okay, so we're thinking museums. We're not only just thinking the UK, so you guys who are in other lands, you know, far away or close, if you want to get together and have some, you know, meets and things like that, we're going to sort out some areas in the forum for you. I don't know where we're going to start here in the UK. I'm going to throw it open. I'll put it up over the weekend, an area in the forum for this one. But a couple of years ago we did things. We went to the Imperial War Museum, we did Duxford, which was a great day out with the members and everything else. So anybody who wants to come along, we just organise a day where we're going to be, and we'll go along and be there. And obviously from my point of view, being down depths of the southwest, it takes me forever to get anywhere, so I'll probably stay up the night before so we can all have drinks up there. and things like that as well, so that would be nice. We also intend to do some more model shows this year. Last year we only really did Telford as our big one, but we might get out and about this year as well, so we hope to see a lot of you at some of the model shows as we go round. Lots of things going on with the forum. We've got various SIGs and everything else going on like that at the moment, so we're going to catch up properly with that next week. We'll do a full look into the actual forum itself and see what's going on in there. So that's basically it for this week. Hope you've enjoyed it. I'm going to leave you with James Manning's here. Now, he did an absolutely brilliant conversion job. He used the Academy 148 27, the flanker, and he used the Wolfpack conversion to make it the SU-33, okay, which is not an easy conversion, and I'm still waiting for somebody to bring out a proper kit of it, because it seems to be a looked over aircraft. I know somebody will do it one day, but he did a stunning job on it, so I'm going to leave you with him and his flanker. So until next week everybody, happy modelling and take care.